Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jessica Finn. I'm the membership manager at NFRC. Before we get started today, just a few housekeeping items. The first one, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, just put them in the question box that's in your panel. We'll answer them at one point in the middle as well at the end, as well as the end of the presentation. There will also be a few polls throughout the webinar, so they'll pop up on your screen, and all you need to do is answer them and then submit, and that's how you handle the polls. Also, this webinar will be recorded, and we'll send it out to everyone who registered after the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I just want to introduce Cindy Wasser. She is the Senior Manager of Green Building Programs at Home Innovation Research Labs, and she provides strategic support to the NGBS Green Certification Program and leads the development of new program features and tools. And she was also recognized by Professional Builder magazine as a 40 under 40 rising star in the home building industry. So Cindy, thanks for joining us today, and I will hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jess, and thanks so much, NFRC, for hosting today's session. Okay, I'm waiting to see the, okay, here we go. One second.
Yep. Perfect.
Great. All right. So thanks, everyone. Today's session is going to cover a broad level overview of the National Green Building Standard, or NGBS. And then we're going to take a look at Home Innovations NGBS Green Certifications. And then we're going to take a deeper dive into the window and door requirements of the 2020 NGBS versions. We'll have Q&A and open discussion both in the middle and then again at the end. So feel free to put any questions you have in the questions box and we'll answer them at those times. So first poll question is designed to give me a sense for how familiar you are with the National Green Building Standard. So the options are expert, somewhat familiar, or not at all familiar. And I'll leave that open for about, I don't know, 20 to 30 seconds until we have a majority of people. Okay, wow, we've got 94% reporting, so we can probably close that out in a second and show the results. Okay, so most people said that they were somewhat familiar. About 40% said not at all familiar. So you're in the right place. I hope that everyone leaves with something that they didn't know before they started. All right, one more poll question before we really get rolling. And this asks, what are the typical applications for your products? And you can select all that apply. Single family homes, low-rise multifamily, mid or high-rise multifamily, mixed use and commercial, or none. I don't sell a product. I want to get a sense for what sectors are really important to this group so I can really kind of hone my comments to those areas. All right, we'll leave it open maybe another 10, 15 seconds. All right, Jess, you want to close that out and share the results? So it's a fairly even split across the options: single family, mid and high rise multifamily, mixed use, and folks that don't sell a product. So very, very interesting. All right, now, so we're going to start with an overview of the National Green Building Standard, and we'll start with the background. So in the early 2000s, green building was booming for commercial, but residential certifications lagged behind. There was maybe one major national green building program, and it was more so a commercial program that was tweaked to accommodate residential. Home builders found that it didn't really fit the timeline and budgets of a typical residential project. And there were also several local regional green building programs that didn't afford builders the marketing benefit of a well-recognized national label. There was a need for a nationally available green building program that was designed specifically for residential construction. So from that need, the National Green Building Standard was born. The NGBS was designed to be a voluntary, above-code green rating system that accommodates all residential occupancies. It was developed through a broad consensus process that involves builders, developers, product manufacturers, code officials, government representatives, and other stakeholders. And it was the first and only residentially focused green building rating system to be approved as an American National Standard, an ANSI standard. It's also part of the ICC suite of I-codes that form a complete and comprehensive set of building codes. Given its place as an ICC standard focused on green residential construction, the NGBS has been incorporated into the International Green Construction Code, or the IGCC. The IGCC is an overlay code for sustainable development that has been adopted by several large jurisdictions, including Dallas, Texas, Washington, D.C., and Montgomery County, Maryland. When the IGCC is adopted, the NGBS is typically included as an alternative compliance path for mid and high-rise residential buildings, and the sole compliance path for single-family homes, townhomes, and low-rise multifamily. NGBS is often preferred by the development community in these scenarios as it's much more straightforward and flexible than the IGCC provisions. So if you're familiar with other green building rating systems, the categories of green practice are not a surprise to anyone. Lot design and development, resource efficiency, energy efficiency, water efficiency, indoor environmental quality, and operations and maintenance. So what makes the NGBS stand apart from other systems? So first, it's comprehensive, both in terms of its broad residential scope, as well as its diversity of green practices. The NGBS includes over 1,100 practices to choose from, which means that there are meaningful targets for exemplary green construction, regardless of location, construction type, or budget. It's also more than just a design standard. There are practices for design, construction, verification, and building operations. The NGBS is written in simple, straightforward code language. This ensures that anyone who picks it up can really quickly understand what is expected. There are a few mandatory practices, but otherwise it's an expansive, flexible, point-based system. And finally, the 2015 and the 2020 versions included important tropical climate zone provisions that make it usable in places that typically construct homes as majority unconditioned, like Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. So as I said, there's a few mandatory provisions across nearly every chapter. These practices must be met without exception, and most but not all do not have any points associated with them. These mandatory practices ensure a consistent baseline of building performance no matter where the NGBS home is located. Everything else is voluntary and contributes for the project earning points towards certification. Points range with higher number of points associated with the more difficult practices. All practices must be inspected by an independent third-party professional. So another thing that's really unique about the NGBS is its point structure. Whereas some green rating systems are just based on a total point accumulation, the NGBS is a little bit different. So let's look at this chart together. The wide column is the 6 categories of green building practices. And to the right are the certification levels, bronze, silver, gold, and emerald. To earn certification, buildings must meet minimum point requirements in each category of green practice. This minimum point requirement provides a level of rigor and ensures that buildings are comprehensively green and they're not just grouping their points in one or a few categories. For each certification level, the number of points required increases, which ensures that buildings earning higher certification levels are more efficient and more sustainable. The certification level that's issued is based on the building's lowest score in any of the categories. So let's say that we have a building that achieves gold level points in every category except water efficiency, where it only has 25 points. The building can only be certified at the bronze level. At the same time, there's flexibility built in, because if you look at row 7, it says additional points from any category. We refer to this as designer's choice because the points come from anywhere, and this provides flexibility So for example, if there's an affordable housing developer that really values health and resilience, they might want to group their points in resource efficiency and indoor environmental quality to get that additional point requirement met. Or if a project is pursuing near net zero or net zero targets, they might get all of their additional points from the energy efficiency chapter. It lets them align the project with their goals for the building. And then NGBS offers so much flexibility with the 1,100 practices that it really is accommodating. So Home Innovation Research Lab serves as both secretariat for the NGBS as well as certification agency. Secretariat refers to the organization that oversees the development of an ANSI standard. Certification agency is the organization that provides certificates of conformance to a standard. Home Innovation was founded in 1964 as a small product testing laboratory to test building materials and products to relevant industry standards. And over the past 57 years, we've transformed into a full-service consulting firm serving the residential construction industry. Our clients are architects, builders, developers, government agencies, and product manufacturers. About 50% of our work is with government, such as U.S. Department of Energy, where we've been a Building America partner for over 20 years, the U.S. Forest Service, the U.S. Army, and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. In our state-of-the-art 42,000 square foot research laboratory, we combine our activities of market research, product testing, and building science research in one place. So no matter the type of work that we're doing, our company mission is to improve quality, durability, affordability, and environmental performance of homes. And we certainly live that mission through our NGBS Green Certification programs. When we launched our green programs, our goal was the same. We set out to create a way for residential sectors to produce more efficient, higher performing, more sustainable housing at less cost and more value. So while the NGBS standard was designed to address prior barriers and increase market acceptance of green certification among residential builders, Home Innovation furthers that mission in our role as certification administrator by working to eliminate costs and process-related barriers. We've worked hard to keep our costs low so we don't pass on high fees to our partners. We try to offer as much flexibility as possible without compromising the rigor of the program. And early on, we heard from partners that they were experiencing processing-related challenges with other programs, that often the project teams were waiting months for final green certificates to be issued. This was a problem because the certificates were not available at home closing. And our team committed to reviewing verification reports upon receipt and issuing certification within 1 business day, barring any technical questions or issues that need to be resolved. Our approach is to work really closely with our clients and bring them in as true partners. And we're always tweaking around the edges or pivoting to make sure that our value proposition always continues to ring true. When our team is aware of incentive opportunities, we act promptly and work to ensure that the NGBS is recognized alongside other credible green building programs. Our advocacy philosophy is that builders should have choice among the programs that are credible and aligned. Finally, a critical component of our value proposition is strong quality assurance and quality control, as you'd expect from an accredited third-party laboratory. So Home Innovation certifies buildings and land developments as being in compliance with the NGBS. Our green team provides technical assistance, sets the verification protocols, issues interpretations, and reviews all in-field verification reports submitted by our accredited verifiers. We've set stringent requirements for visual inspection that our verifiers must employ, and we make sure that they're holding up those performance standards. So here's the process from a builder's perspective. During the design phase, the builder developer will score the project using the Excel-based NGBS Green scoring tools that we provide. This tool serves, as the verification checklist used by the verifiers during their inspections, and is then sent to our team for review and certification later on. The builder or developer will select and hire their verifier. The verifier will register the buildings for certification. Registration is free but mandatory. Construction gets underway and the verifier completes inspections pre-drywall and again at final. For multifamily buildings, every unit is visually inspected. Finally, once final inspections are complete, certification is issued by our team after review of the documents. To date, we've certified nearly 295,000 homes and apartments across the country. There's about 2/3 of that volume in process for certification at this time. Our program has experienced increasing growth since its launch, and 2020 was a real banner year for the program given the hot construction market. We believe that we're the leading multi-attribute green building grading program available. So before we move on, I'm going to ask our final poll question, and that is, does your company market how many points your products earn toward green building grading systems or green certifications? And you can say yes, no, NA, or not sure. Right, we've got about 50% of the votes in, so I'll take another 20 seconds or so to get more responses. All right, I think we're pretty steady at 58%, so we can close that out. The overwhelming majority of you said no, and about 20% said yes. So I think that's really interesting. So I was asking about that because in addition to certification of homes, multifamily buildings, and remodel projects, there are also NGBS Green Certification opportunities for projects that contribute toward a project earning certification. And for manufacturers, this might enhance their brand value by associating with a recognized green building program. So any product that partially or fully satisfies an NGBS practice, either mandatory or voluntary, is eligible for certification. Given the wide range of green practices included within the NGBS, most building product categories are eligible for certification. Appliances, building materials, HVAC, insulation, windows and doors, and more. So over the years, we've worked with both large and small brands, as well as some really diverse products through our NGBS Green Certified program. Examples of partners that we've worked with include InSinkErator, DuPont, CertainTeed, and more. So a key benefit to manufacturers is that third-party product certification and use of our NGBS Green program logos for labeling and marketing their products. The NGBS Green certification is specific. It's a certification that a product contributes toward NGBS Green compliance. This specificity is important because it helps manufacturers stay in alignment with the FTC guidelines for green marketing when describing the sustainability of their products. All certified products are listed on our website at homeinnovation.com/NGBS, homeinnovation.com/green products. And featured products are regularly included on our corporate homepage and are included in our monthly newsletter, which goes to about 16,000 builders, developers, architects, and verifiers involved with our program. Other benefits include opportunities to stay informed of green building trends through our newsletter and webinars. Networking, I always encourage our manufacturer partners to connect their sales reps with our architects and verifier partners located in the regions where they work so they can network and grow their sales. As well as we do some product promotions of certified products at the International Builder Show and on occasion other industry events. So not only does product certification offer benefits to manufacturers, there's also benefits provided to the builders, developers, and verifiers that are working through the certification process. When a green certified product is used, the NGBS Green Verifier does not need to collect and review compliance documentation. They can simply note on the verification report that a green certified product was used, check on site to confirm that yes, that product that was specified was indeed used, and move forward. And that can save some time and effort for multiple parties in the process. So in a second, In a few minutes, we're going to go into a deeper dive of the 2020 NGBS and the specific requirements for windows and doors. But I wanted to take a pause and see if there were any questions about anything we've covered up until now, like the high-level overview or home innovations programs. So I'll take a pause and check out the questions box. Okay, I don't see anything coming in yet, but I'll give it another minute or so.
I do have one question, Cindy, that came in.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, can we use our NFRC certification for, and maybe if you're not, if maybe you'll get to this later, but the question was there, so I wanted to, and if we're going to talk about it later, you can just say that, but can we use our NFRC certification?
Yes. We'll look at the requirements specifically, and you'll see that at least one specifically calls out an NFRC standard. That type of documentation is like very appropriate for window and door products that are seeking certification.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the only one.
Okay, so let's keep moving. I appreciate people staying engaged and putting in the questions. All right, so as an ANSI standard, the NGBS is subject to regular review and updating so that it remains above code and incorporates latest technology and best practices. So there have been 4 additions to date. The 2008 version has been retired. It's currently not used for compliance and certification. The 2015 and the 2012 versions are currently in the process of being sunset. The 2012, only projects that are currently been registered can seek certification under that version, and construction deadlines are end of 2021 and end of 2022, depending on where the project's located. The 2015 is probably the most widely used version at this time, but that will be winding down. The registration deadline of April of next year, and then a construction deadline of April 2025. The focus of today's section is on the 2020 NGBS, which is the newest version. It's ANSI approved, and it was released April of last year. It's available now. So I know Jess is going to send out materials after the session, and I'll make sure that she has links where anyone can download a free ebook of the 2020 NGBS for anyone who wants to take a really deep dive into the content. So the 2020 NGBS is based on the 2018 I codes, the IECC, IRC, and IPC. There are numerous references to these codes throughout, and they reference the pristine, unamended version. Local code requirements are irrelevant unless the local code strictly prohibits an NGBS practice. All right, sorry about that. The consensus committee that developed the 2020 version was making some major changes. There are a lot of new certification opportunities and some major rewrites. So these are the new key components. So first, there's an expanded definition of residential, which will make the NGBS even more relevant to some different sectors. There's now an option to certify an entire mixed-use building, including the commercial space, with 2 options, core and shell and full fitted out. There are more flexible renovation requirements. There's a new certified level for homes, townhomes, duplexes, and quads. And there's a new water efficiency performance path. So as we move forward, I'm going to touch on most of these with the exception of water efficiency, because I know that's not the key interest of those on the call today. So the NGBS can be used for land developments, homes, multifamily buildings, and mixed-use buildings. These buildings can be new construction or renovated. There's no height or size limit. So previously, the residential definition was restricted to those buildings that were deemed residential within the building code. Now, all buildings that are residential use are eligible under the NGBS. Also, previously, the NGBS only applied to the residential portion of mixed-use buildings. Now there's a certification option for the commercial space within the building. That mixed-use building has to be at least 50% residential space. The commercial portion cannot be more than 49% of the gross floor area. So the 2020 NGBS definition is much more expansive than previous versions. It includes all buildings that are residential in nature, where people eat, live, and sleep. So it includes all buildings within the IRC. It includes all Group R occupancies in the IBC, and includes all Group I1 occupancies as defined by the IBC, which are assisted living, residential board and care facilities, dorms, monasteries, and other uses. So there's a really diverse list of occupancies. So of those that are newly included, we believe that like dorms, hotels, and assisted living are going to be the most likely candidates for NGBS Green Certification in the future. But I just think this is really exciting because, you know, the standards that are applied to our homes, you know, should be similar to those where we might be staying for, you know, a night or more, like hotels, motels, like, you know, they should have the same care and attention. So let's look at the specific requirements pertaining to windows and doors. So chapters 5 through 10 of the NGBS outline compliance criteria for new construction. Chapter 5 deals with lot design, so it's not relevant. We're going to jump right to chapter 6, which is resource efficiency. So one area where windows and doors commonly contribute toward points is pre-finished materials. Up to 12 points are awarded for pre-finished building materials or assemblies that do not require site-applied finishes. And points are awarded based on the percent of each pre-finished material installed. 1 point for 35 to 50%, 2 points for 50 to 90, or 5 points for 90% or more. Another area where windows and doors can contribute toward points within the resource efficiency category is recycled content. 1 to 6 points are available when 2 minor or 2 major products are installed with 25% or more recycled content. And this can be really low-hanging fruit for aluminum and steel frame window products because most aluminum steel is largely recycled content. Resource efficiency also includes a practice for bio-based products. So a bio-based product is a product with ingredients from renewable biological sources. Examples include certified solid wood, engineered wood, bamboo, straw, and other. So 1 to 8 points are available based on how much the building material cost is comprised of these bio-based products. Products that have a third-party prepared life cycle assessment or product declaration can also be eligible for points in the 5 to 15 point range. And then products certified under recognized product certifications for sustainability can also earn points as well. The 2020 NGBS also added a new section for resilient construction in this area. So this is new and it's designed to incentivize resilience and durability above the baseline building code so that the structure can better survive flooding, snow, wind, or seismic activity. It has 6 new sub-practices and a range of points up to 15. And so this might be an area, like especially where windows have been tested to withstand high wind events, that they can be considered as contributing toward this practice and help the home or building earn points. So let's move on to chapter 7, which is energy efficiency. So as a reminder, the baseline for the 2020 NGBS is the 2018 IECC. So this means from an energy efficiency perspective, bronze level buildings will be roughly equivalent with the 2018 IECC. So there are three main compliance options within Chapter 7. For any of these pathways, the mandatory practices within Section 701 must be addressed. The building must also complete 2 practices from 705 or 706, which are the innovation sections. So there's the performance path, where the project is doing modeling to demonstrate minimum energy savings in alignment with the 2018 IECC. There's also the prescriptive path, where points are awarded based on the specific installed products and systems. At least 30 points must be earned. This pathway is not eligible for emerald level certification, just bronze, silver, gold. And then there's the energy rating index target path, which means that an energy rating index value or ERI value is being generated, and it must be at least 15 points higher than the Energy Star National ERI target procedure. And this is also available for all certification levels, including Emerald. There are also a number of alternative pathways. So buildings can earn bronze under Chapter 7 if it complies in one of these 4 ways. Energy Star Certified Homes, version 3.0, Energy Star Multifamily High Rise, version 1 for version 3, 2018 IECC compliance, or 2018 IRC Chapter 11. To earn silver under the alternative pathways, a home can qualify using Energy Star Certified Homes version 3.1, Energy Star Multifamily High Rise version 1, Rev 3 with a baseline of ASHRAE 90.1, or if you're in the tropical climate zones, the 2018 IECC section R40121. And then finally, a building can qualify for gold if it meets the requirements of the IGCC, or if it complies with the provisions of 701.16 in the tropical climate zone. All right, so here we're getting into the meat of it. So practice 701.431 must be addressed for all the compliance paths, performance, prescriptive, and ERI. And this is a air leakage requirement. Windows, skylights, and sliding doors have air infiltration rate of no more than 0.3 CFM per square foot, and swinging doors no more than 0.5 CFM per square foot when tested in accordance with NFRC 400 or AAMA, WDMA, CSA 101. So this is like a clear example where using the NFRC documentation is very clear that yes, that product is in compliance. So yeah, your NFRC, if you have that NRC rating, you're in a good place. The next 3 rows are prescriptive path practices. The middle one, 703.251, it's a mandatory practice for projects that are following the prescriptive path. There are NFRC certified U factor and solar heating coefficient values do not exceed specified values within the table. And then 703.21, this is a look at overall UA, improvement over a baseline, and fenestration and other skylights can contribute toward that total UA achievement. And then finally, enhanced fenestration specifications. That gives you 1 to 6 points based on some specified solar heat gain coefficient requirements. And then the final line in this table is available for all projects. It's an optional practice for skylights and TDDs when they're installed in rooms without windows. So I wanted to note, like on this chart, you'll see that like the main mandatory practice, 701.431, has to do with air leakage. If you're doing performance path, there's not a specific fenestration requirement where there are mandatory U factor or solar heat gain coefficient values. Because by its nature, the performance path is designed to be very flexible and allow a lot of trade-offs and people to get credit for those higher level energy performance afforded by their choices of insulation and HVAC and appliance choices. But when we come to the prescriptive path, this is where we see these practices for UA improvement, fenestration, enhanced fenestration, where there's a baseline of U factor and solar heat gain coefficient criteria, and then there's options for different points based on what's selected. So I've included a lot of tables in this presentation. I don't expect you to read them all carefully today. If you want, after the program, send me an email. I have a 2-page summary document that lays out all of the criteria and includes the tables. And it's a really easy summary that you can share with your team or with your clients, anyone who might be interested in this content. So here are the value tables for 703251, the mandatory practice within the prescriptive path. For window and exterior doors, the maximum U factors are between 0.3 and 0.5. And a solar heat gain coefficient between 0.25 and 0.4 is required for climate zones 1 through 4. And then there are additional requirements for skylights and TVPs. These are the value tables for 70321, UA improvement, and 703252, enhanced fenestration. There's a big point range for 70321 between 0 and 23 points based on the total UA improvement of the building. And then 703251, enhanced fenestration, had 3 different tables cited, A, B, and C. So these are A and B for enhanced fenestration. And then this is C. All right, let's keep moving.
Cindy, before we have one question I think might help to answer it now before we move on. But
Sure.
the question, what is meant by points for pre-finished products? Does that refer to the coating applied to the door or window?
Yeah, so if you sell a window product where it's aluminum and it's designed to just be installed as is without any painting or coating on site, then it would satisfy that practice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about remodeling. So Chapter 11 addresses remodeling of both homes and multifamily buildings, and there's a lot of flexibility, so it can accommodate kind of more moderate renovation to more gut rehab or even building conversions, like when commercial buildings are being converted to apartments, which is a big trend right now, given our working from home. So in general, the Chapter 11 practices are pulled from the new construction section. There are some exceptions, but a lot of them are fairly similar. There are 2 main things to remember about the renovation path. So first, mandatory practices are only relevant when the mandatory practices are only required when they're relevant to the project. So let's say you're not planning to disrupt the thermal envelope, you won't need to do the blower door testing or the insulation requirements. In addition, attributes of the building that complied before the remodel and remain in compliance are eligible to earn points. So if a building was constructed the right way and it's still in compliance, it would be less green to require that building disrupted more than it needed to. So the 2020 NGBS Consensus Committee was not tinkering around the edges for remodeling. They ripped everything up and made really significant changes. The main thing that is new is that there are now both performance and prescriptive pathways for energy and water. So previously there was just a performance path. So the project team would need to demonstrate that post-renovation, X% more energy and water was saved compared to the pre-renovation version. Now there's a prescriptive path that is very similar to the prescriptive paths for new construction. So a lot of those same fenestration tables and requirements we just looked at for new construction are also relevant to renovation projects when the windows and doors are being swapped out. So if you sell a replacement window, don't hesitate to look at the NGBS requirements. There's plenty that are relevant to your products as well. The renovation pathway also allows a 3-year look back for setting the baseline for the performance path calculations. And there are some new exceptions for buildings in the tropical climate zone. So we looked at the table earlier for the point minimums for new construction. Renovation is a little bit different. There's 3 main components: energy use reduction, water use reduction, and both of those can be demonstrated through either a performance option or a prescriptive option. And then rather than having minimum requirements for each and every other chapter, there's just one point total needed for lot design, indoor air quality, operations and maintenance, and resource efficiency. So a minimum of 88 points to be achieved for all of these sections in total, rather than having minimums in each and every one. All right, so now we're going to move on to Chapter 12. This was newly added to the 2020 NGBS. So during the consensus process, the committee heard that there was a need among newer green builders and large production builders for a more simplified entrance into green certification. So large production builders work across many different regions and have multiple home designs, and having so many options to choose from was a bit overwhelming. The amount of flexibility in the NGBS wasn't an advantage in their eyes. So they wanted a different approach. And so Chapter 12 offers a real streamlined set of requirements, and everything is mandatory. And there's only one certification level, which is certified. This is, it's not like a watered down version of the NGBS. It's a much more streamlined option that focuses on the most impactful green measures. And it's not less efficient than the typical route. In fact, energy efficiency is about 7.5% above that which is required for bronze level certification. So it's not a lower option, it's just a different option. And still, with this path, every green practice is third-party verified to ensure compliance and quality. So there are 2 main practices for window and door manufacturers within this new section, and those are 1203.11.1, which requires the building thermal envelope meet table 1203.11.11 and 1203.11.12. And then there's a practice that pertains to total UA, 1203.11.12. So here are the specific requirements by component. So for fenestration in climate zones 2 through 8, you're looking at U factors between 0.3 and 0.4 required. And here are the equivalent U factor values. All right, so we're in the home stretch now. We just have one more section before we can open it up for Q&A. So Chapter 13 is new to the 2020 NGBS. It provides compliance options for the non-residential space of a mixed-use building. It can be used for both new construction and renovation. So for mixed-use building, certification of the non-residential space is new and it's optional. So developers can always choose to just seek certification for the residential portion, or they can seek certification for the residential portion plus the commercial space. The one thing that's not an option is seeking the commercial space certification as a standalone. That's not available. You have to do it in tandem with the residential option. If the developer decides that they do want to seek certification for the entire building, including commercial space, they can earn certified for the non-residential space, and then bronze, silver, gold, or emerald for the residential space. There are two different options, core and shell and full fitted out. Core and shell just addresses the building envelope and fenestration. The full fitted out is like fully built out after a tenant has taken over the space. To be certified, all relevant practices must be implemented without exception. So the core and shell certification really just addresses building thermal envelope, insulation, fenestration, air sealing, and air barrier. These are practices that are typically verified at the same time as the inspections for the residential portion. The full fitted out covers a whole range of other things. It's kind of a commercial version of everything else that's in the NGBS, as well as some new things that are only applicable for commercial spaces, like food service. I'm not going to go into the full breadth of everything that's included with this pathway, but I will show this list of the energy efficiency items. Thermal envelope, insulation, fenestration, air sealing, individual energy meters, HVAC, lighting, water heating, and then overall efficiency, at least 10% over IECC or ASHRAE 90.1. And this is the specific fenestration requirement for commercial space certification. The non-residential space shall be in accordance with the requirements of IECC section C402.4 as applicable. All right, so that wraps us up today. We looked at the NGBS high level, and then we dove down into Home Innovations certification programs, then looked at